The film begins with Christian, a Norwegian geologist, arriving home by car. There he finds his wife, Idun, busy working on the pipes. During dinner, Christian shares with his family the plans to move to Stavanger, which generates a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Afterward, he goes to work and enjoys a meal with his colleagues, savoring those last moments together before the move. While packing, an alarm snaps him out of his thoughts, and he goes to see what's happening. Upon asking about the situation, he learns that the groundwater level has dropped sharply, though there are no further strange movements. His boss, Arvid, tries to calm him, saying the mountain is as solid as an oak and that they have the situation under control. However, with the move almost ready, Christian can't shake off the mysterious drop in water level. While waiting to board the ferry, he can't help but look at the mountain. He has a moment of insight. He leaves his kids in the car for a moment and returns to the geology center to talk to his former colleagues. He suggests that maybe the problem isn't the sensors themselves, but the cables connecting them. He reasons that groundwater doesn't just disappear. If it's seeking new paths among the mountain's layers, that could cause friction. If they lost contact and didn't detect anything, maybe friction damaged the cable inside the mountain. Christian, together with Jakoban, old colleague, checks the cables and finds them broken. Back at the center, they face a complicated situation. Frustrated that he can only issue a yellow warning to avoid panic, Christian discovers his children are not in the car. He heads to the hotel where Idun works and finds Julia, his daughter, who wants to go home to say goodbye, while Sondre, his son, prefers to stay at the hotel. At the geology center, Jorg, who stayed behind watching a movie, notices strange data on the sensors, unusual contractions in the rock. He and Margot alert Arvid to what's happening. Arvid and Jacob go deep into the mountain's interior to check the sensors. Still worried, Christian calls the center and learns about the situation. He reviews previous contraction data and realizes these contractions are an avalanche warning. He notes that the mountains aren't expanding but compressing right before disaster strikes. He calls the center again and shares his discovery with Arvid. Just as Arvid and Jacob decide to return to the surface, an earthquake shakes the area and Jacob becomes trapped. Jorg and Margot lose contact with them and also detect that groundwater levels are dropping in several places, a sure sign of an imminent tsunami. Still on the line, Christian urges Margot to activate the tsunami alarm. Margot does so, and the entire town receives the alert of the coming disaster. Moments later, the avalanche occurs. Arvid, who is trying to help Jakob, is hit hard by a rock and loses his life. Meanwhile, Christian takes charge of Julia, and like two heroes, they look for a safe place. They warn everyone they meet to head for the hill because a giant tsunami is coming. Meanwhile, Idun and her colleague Vibeke are alerting hotel guests to prepare. Suddenly, Idun realizes Sondre has disappeared. She becomes very anxious and rushes out to find him. A guest, Maria, tells her husband Philip that they should join the search for the boy. With traffic and chaos, Christian and Julia realize it's best to abandon the car and run to the hill. Christian tells everyone to do the same. Suddenly, they see their neighbor Anna trapped between two cars. Christian tells Julia to go on with Thomas, Anna's husband, and their daughter Teresa, while he stays behind to help. With no escape, they take refuge inside a car to withstand the impact of the giant wave. The tsunami hits them and leaves them out of action. Elsewhere, Maria finds Sondre skating along a hallway with his headphones on, completely unaware of the danger. Idun breathes a sigh of relief upon finding her son, and they leave the hotel just as the bus that could have taken them has departed. Then they see the enormous approaching wave. Idun orders everyone down to the basement, where there are shelters. Sondre and Philip run back toward the hotel, but Maria remains paralyzed with fear. Idun has to drag her to safety. Inside, Sondre and Philip wait in a room for Idun and Maria, but the situation worsens. Idun leaps inside at the last second, but Maria is swept away by the floodwaters. Philip, desperate, calls out to his wife. Idun, her voice trembling, makes him understand that he must shut the door. It's a tremendous struggle to close it against the rushing water, and when they finally succeed, everything goes dark. Meanwhile, when Christian wakes up, he finds Anna covered in blood and realizes she's dead. He leaves the car and climbs the hill, searching among the survivors for Julia. When he finds her, he embraces her tightly, regretting he couldn't save Anna. Back at the geology center, Georg and Margot receive a call from Jakob. They ask about Arvid, but Jakob's silence says it all. Arvid is gone. Georg and Margot weep inconsolably. In the hotel basement, Idun tries to comfort Philip, who is devastated by Maria's death. Christian, worried about Idun and Sondre and recalling the bus Idun mentioned, sees a man on the phone. He asks where the call is coming from and is told it's from a slope near Geiranger. More anxious, Christian asks about the tour bus, but there's no news. He decides to go to the hotel to check. He tells Julia to stay with Thomas for a while and wait for him. In the basement, Idun and Sondre struggle to close a door where water is entering. With great effort, they manage it. Idun looks through the ventilation grills for an exit, but finds nothing and cries out in frustration. Water begins to seep in again, and Philip, who isn't helping, complains non-stop. Sondre gets angry because Philip isn't helping to keep the door shut. Idun tries to restore order, but Philip only repeats that they're going to die if they stay there. Christian, like an action hero, swims through rubble and ruins to reach the hotel. When he finds solid ground, he realizes he is standing on the tourist bus. He opens it and jumps inside. The scene is grim. Everyone is dead, except Vibeke. With no sign of Idun or Sondre, he continues on to the hotel. Meanwhile, in the flooded basement room where Idun and Sondre are trapped, the situation resembles a swimming pool. They swim, searching for air near the ventilation spaces. Philip, in total panic and with nothing to keep him afloat, pushes Sondre down to avoid drowning himself, gradually choking the boy. Seeing her son struggle for air, Idun pushes Philip away, who ends up drowning. With a heavy heart, Idun apologizes to Sondre for what she has done. Christian reaches the hotel, shouting Idun and Sondre's names. Seeing the basement flooded, he steps back and keeps searching. In another room, he finds Sondre's bag. Furious and scared, he bangs on the window. Idun and Sondre, in another area, bang on the pipes to attract his attention, but Christian doesn't hear them. Then Idun, using her wits, dives underwater and strikes the metal with a wrench, making louder noise. Christian hears and responds. Idun and Sondre smile, relieved that he knows where they are. Their joy is short-lived because water starts pouring into the ducts with greater force. Christian dives into the basement and removes everything blocking a door. Idun tells Sondre to stay put while she goes to the door. It turns out both sides are trying to open the same door. They finally manage it and are overjoyed to see each other. Christian tells Idun to swim toward the stairs to get out of the water while he goes for Sondre. Sondre, frightened, doesn't want to swim, but Christian calms him. They dive in, and when Sondre starts panicking, Christian gives him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation underwater. The tension is at its peak. Idun, seeing Sondre reach the stairs without Christian, dives back to rescue him. She finds him and brings him to the surface, giving him CPR and mouth-to-mouth. Christian doesn't respond. On the verge of giving up, Sondre refuses to quit and yells for his father, continuing with the compressions and breathing. At last, Christian coughs up water and comes around. The family embraces, filled with relief. Later, Julia, who has been with Teresa and worried about her family, hears a helicopter and hopes it's them, but it's not. When she's about to lose hope, she sees her parents and brother approaching. She runs toward them, and Idun lifts her in her arms. Finally together and safe, the family joins the doctors and other survivors, celebrating their reunion and survival after the tragedy.